This is going to be a video on my Beatles Revolver collection, and if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I just show my collection, what I have on vinyl, cassette, and CD, talk a little bit about the album, try to act like I know what I'm talking about, but basically it just boils down to the fact I'm a Beatles fan. I love interacting with other Beatles fans and seeing their collection on their YouTube videos. And so I just share what I have, what I know about the album, what the album meant to me, and just try to have a little fun with it. Revolver, which was released on August 5th, 1966, came in the middle of a very tumultuous year for the Beatles. If you're familiar with the Beatles history, you know about the different controversies. There was the uprising in the Philippines when the Beatles unintentionally snubbed the wife of the president, President Marcos, and there was a controversy surrounding John's comments to Maureen Cleave a year earlier that appeared in the Evening Standard. I don't know if it was a newspaper or a magazine, which were published in 1966 in America, albeit taken out of context. And so there was a big furor in America, particularly in the South, over John's comments. There were protests and album burnings, and the Beatles flew into and toured in the middle of all that. And I can't imagine it was a very fun experience for them. They were already sick of the touring. They felt that nobody was listening to them. And Revolver was actually the first Beatles album that they did not perform any of the material live, which sounds very strange now that a band would tour immediately after releasing an album or during the release of an album and not play anything from it. The only tracks that they really played that were from 1966 were Paperback Writer, and that might have actually been it. I don't recall if they played anything else. I think that was probably it, just Paperback Writer. And it was just a real transitional kind of album for them. It was the first album cover in a while that Robert Freeman did not provide the photograph for. He was responsible, I think, for every album cover since the With the Beatles cover in 1963. And he did submit some mock-ups for an album cover, which involved some black and white photographs, but apparently the Beatles were not impressed, and instead he did the rear cover album photo. And for the actual front cover of the album, they asked their old friend Klaus Vorman if he would have a go at putting something together for the album. And he presented his ideas to the Beatles during a meeting that they were having with Brian Epstein at EMI, and they thought the world of it. They thought it was great, that it perfectly captured the material that they had put on the album. Brian Epstein, I guess, even cried. He was so happy. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that there had been controversy over the Yesterday and Today original album cover in America, the Butcher cover, and so he was relieved that not only was it a brilliant album cover, but there was nothing controversial on it. This book, The Beatles 66, actually has one of his early sketches for the Revolver album cover. Just to give kind of an idea, you know, it wasn't too far off. The only thing missing were the black and white pictures, which the Beatles provided to him, which dated from 1963 to 1964. Just some pictures that they had come up with, almost like the collage on the White Album. There were some photographs that they had submitted to the artist to use as part of the album packaging, and that's what they gave Klaus Vorman to use. And so I will show my vinyl albums that I have first. This is my stereo copy of, American stereo copy of the album. It's still in the shrink wrap. This is on the orange Capitol label, which is, I believe, a mid-70s release. This is the back cover photograph that Robert Freeman took. This is my American mono version of the album. This has the original inner sleeve. And the inner sleeve features other Beatles albums, Rubber Soul, Help. It's got the Beach Boys Party on here, the Beach Boys Summer Days, but curiously not Pet Sounds. I don't know if that was too new or whether that album, the inner sleeve, had been generated earlier in 1966. That's the only explanation I could think of. And speaking of the back cover that Robert Freeman took, this is a bootleg I have. It's called Sessions, and they have an alternate photograph from that same photo session, and I believe it was during the Beatles. They were recording a video for it was an alternate video for a paperback writer, and so they were just kind of messing around in the studio during the making of that video. And actually George here is looking through, I believe they are some film stills. They might have been the Butcher photographs, or they had something to do with Yesterday and Today, I believe. They were looking through those pictures as well. This is my UK mono copy of the album. This is the, I think it was 2012 or 2013 reissue of this on the 180 gram vinyl. And then my British stereo copy is also that 180 gram reissue. This is the Cassette, American Cassette, and it's interesting the Capitol logo is up here rather than down here, and so you can kind of see the picture without either the logo, the Parlophone logo, or the Capitol logo. One of the few cassettes that actually retains the original running order of the album on here. This is the British version of the cassette. It's a 90s reissue, and the track listing is all messed up on here. On side 1, it starts with Good Day Sunshine, then And Your Bird Can Sing, Dr. Robert, I Want to Tell You, then Taxman, I'm Only Sleeping, and Yellow Submarine is the last song. And on side 2, it starts with Eleanor Rigby, then Here, There, and Everywhere, For No One, Got to Get You Into My Life, Love You Too, then She Said, and Tomorrow Never Knows. So they stuck the last song on side A right before the final song on side B. And I know it was to preserve the running order or the running time on each side, but still not it's a very disjointed listening experience if you had that on cassette. This is the original CD version, which came out in April of 1987. This was actually the first release in America, official release in America, of the UK version of this album. The booklet has cropped individual photographs of the Beatles from the back cover. I'm not sure why they just didn't use the original photograph. I was never a fan of the way that they kind of chopped up the artwork on these original American CD releases. However, they did rectify it in 2009 when they came out with the remastered reissues, including some extra photographs from 1966. The booklet here was also a lot more extensive. It included some essays, some studio photographs from 1966. So, very well put together package. This is the CD from the mono box set. and it's a very faithful reproduction of the original album. And then the American CD was released for the first time on the US albums CD box set, and these were also sold individually. And this was also a very faithful reproduction of the original vinyl. And of course it has the original inner sleeve, also a reproduction. And then that's what the actual CD looked like. So that is my Revolver collection. I appreciate you watching. And for me, I got Revolver, I believe it was in the summer of 1983 or 84. I know I was not yet in high school, and I only knew the American album existed. I didn't realize until much later that there was a UK version and the different track listing that there was. But Revolver has always been one of my favorites. It might be my second favorite after the White Album, but I'll save that for another video. I do appreciate you watching. I'd love to hear what you think about Revolver, what you have in your collection. So I do appreciate the comments. Hope everybody is doing safe and well. I'm still in my garage here under quarantine for the moment. Hope all you Beatles and non-Beatle fans alike are doing well. And thanks again for watching.